Okay, so I'm working on a project, and part of it is including me to get a SQLite file and ship it with an Android app. But the source of the data is from a .sql file, which is from MySQL. So I was doing a lot of research and trying to find how to convert a MySQL database to a SQLite, and did not find any luck. I found some products and they claim to do it, but they cost. So I found a way. I just want to make a quick video to show you that. I'm going to try to keep it straight to the point. Basically, you cannot convert the MySQL database to an SQLite database, but what you can do is basically dump the data and the table structures and all that from MySQL, format it to work with SQLite, and then execute that. So our first step is going to be, I'm just going to show you, I have some dummy data I have a phpMyAdmin open, and I just want to show you I have a table called mock data, and it's in the mock database, and it's just a bunch of fake information. Alright, so that's pretty much it. As you can see, there is information in this database, and if we come here, let's see. We're basically going to dump the contents from the MySQL to a file. And you can do that in many ways. If you're in the MySQL dashboard app that they have, let me see, what's it called? So the workbench, I'm sure there's a way you can do it in there. If you're in the phpMyAdmin, you can go to export, and you can do a custom export, dump all rows, save the pretty much everything you're going to keep the same except for let's see, right here you'll change this to ANSI, and you'll take out all of this stuff, actually leave the create table statement and leave that right there also, take out that. And so whenever you do this, it's going to export it for you. It's trying to open it automatically in SQLitestudio, so that's my fault. But let's see here. It did download. I'm also going to leave links to everything that you need to do this. See right there, it did download. It tried to open automatically. We're going to edit this with Notepad++, and as you can see, it just dumps all of the data. It dumps the table creation and all that into a file. You can also do that from the command line. Just if you're using an AMP stack, you can navigate to this folder right here. Is probably going to be it. Depending on what OS you are on might determine a different place that the MySQL dump file is, but as you can see, I've navigated to it, and we can scroll down and we can see the MySQL dump application, and that's what you're going to want to be. You're going to want to be in the folder that contains that, and then you can just issue the command. We're going to dump my mock data database, and we're going to call it mockdb.sql. And whenever we do this, it's going to tell you using the password on the command line is it could be insecure, but we're only doing this for video and home use, so everybody's going to have the same information right here. Okay, so whenever we do that, it also does the same thing that phpMyAdmin does, is it makes a .sql file, and it's pretty much the same thing as you can see. Although it doesn't look like, yep, there's all the data right there. So it just probably keeps going all the way across. The important thing to notice with this dump from MySQL is that it's got a lot of information on it, but most importantly, it's got the table creation, and it's got the data in it. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to get rid of everything that is not the table structure and the data. So that's what we have done. But also there is a little bit of a difference from the primary key auto increment from most of the SQL databases versus SQLite. So we're going to change this to integer primary key and then auto increment, all one word. And once we do that, we're going to save this as, and I am going to use this PC documents. I think I have a folder in here called SQL to SQLite for this tutorial, and it's going to be mockdata.sql. So once I save that, I'm going to want to have a reference to that file. That's right? Mockdata.sql. Okay, so this is the location of the dump of the MySQL, and again, that's this right here, mostly just the table creation and the data itself. It's just ID, first name, last name. It's all mock data from mockaroo.com. Okay, so once we have that, now we're going to go into SQLite Studio, and in fact, I'm going to disconnect from that database. And what's going to happen is, and by the way, if you don't have SQLite Studio, download it because it's awesome. But we're going to add a database. We're going to add it in the same directory as that SQL file, the SQL dump. Okay, and we're going to call it the same thing, but we're going to call it mockdata.db. For my reasons, I was wanting to ship this with an Android app, and in order to do that for SQLite and Android, it's got to be .sqlite or .db. There might be a couple of other ones, but I know .db works. So we're going to save this, and we're going to hit OK, and we're going to connect to it. But as you can see, there's nothing in here, right? So watch this. I'm going to disconnect from this. The important thing to note right now is within this file, we have our dump from MySQL into a .sql file. I'm sorry, this is the that's the .db file. This is the .sql file. This is the dump, as you can see, with all of the information it has over here on the side. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to open up the terminal for SQLite and then issue commands to copy, or basically connect to this database, and then we're going to open this and we're going to read this file, and it's going to execute these queries and put it in that database. And to do that, you need to get the SQLite terminal, and it can be found at, just go to Google, hit download SQLite. I'll put this link in the description also. But whenever you go to the download page, just scroll down, and it's going to be in the tools bundle. Okay, so whenever you download that, extract it, and you'll have a SQLite3.exe file. Open it, and whenever you do, you'll get the terminal. So what we're going to do is open, and we're going to open our file here, and it was the same thing as this, if you remember, but it was .db, right? You follow that? Same thing. But there are two different, one's a .sql, one's a .db. This is the SQLite file, that's the MySQL file. With the SQLite terminal, you'll notice that it needs 2 backslashes almost to escape it, because it almost seems to run off strings or something, I don't know, but if you don't put these double backslashes in, it won't work. So very important part. Okay, so that's it. Let's go ahead and connect to our .sqlite by hitting open. Once we run that, and remember, don't put no semicolon. This terminal does not like semicolons. Okay, so what we have done is connected to that database. And now what we're going to do is read from that file. Okay, so once we read it, it pretty much executed every single query in that file. And since we have that connected, it has ported in there. So let's go back and connect to our database. And as you can see, the table is in here now. And we can go to the data and bam, it's all in here. So what does that mean? Now we can ship it with an Android app. So I'm going to start a new project. I will probably pause it while this stuff is building. Like DB app example, include column. So I'm going to pause this while it's building up. I'll resume the video right here. I'm going to close out some of this other stuff as it is not needed anymore for the video. I don't have too much stuff running on my computer. Okay, I'm also going to close down the amp stack because it is not needed also. By the way, if all you wanted to know was how to get a .sql file to an SQLite file, you have it. And putting it in an Android app, shipping it with it this way, a local SQLite, it's a matter of choice. I'm not saying it's the best way, of course. You might want it to sync online and write to it. I'm just showing you that it is an option. So if you want to learn how to do that, you can follow this video. I will also upload the code to GitHub and share that in the link too. But I'm going to show you how to ship it with your app. And whenever you do that, what's going to happen is it'll write it to local storage and you can fetch it from there. All right, so let's see. We're going to just add a text view. It's already got one. We're going to call this show text. Well, just call it text view. Text view 1. How about that? All right, and we're going to include an assets folder. Okay, as it does that, we'll go back and get our .db file. Okay, and then we'll just paste that into our assets. I'm going to call this central DB for the reason of the helper class that I'm about to bring in this project. I got it outfitted for other projects that I've done, and I've used that term. So to keep it short, I'm just going to call it central DB. They're the same exact database. It's just called central DB inside of this app. The table name is still mock data though. Okay, so now we see we got our central DB. Let me go to this other project I got, and I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to copy it in the Java file. I'm just going to call this DB helper shipped in. Basically, our shipped in SQLite is here, and as you can see, I've already have it outfitted with the name central DB. We're going to change this version to 1. But basically the version, I'm not going to go too in depth about this code here. But you can look it over yourself. Basically what happens is whenever you create an object of this helper, the SQLite open helper, it checks to see if it has already been written to local storage and if it has, it grabs the copy of it and it brings it to the object. But if not, it takes the asset from the assets folder, this database, and it writes it to internal storage. Once it does that, it returns the copy of it. And that's basically what's going on with this entire file right here. And as you can see in the on upgrade, you see I've outfitted. I can't take credit for this whole class. I got it on Stack Overflow a while back. I've kind of changed a little bit of it to fit what I need it to do. But basically, let's say this database I'm bringing in, I want to update it with a whole bunch of new information. Well, how do I make sure that the app will delete the old database and write the new database to storage? And that's where this version comes in. So let's say I bring in a whole new database. I'm going to change this to version 2. And whenever I create the object again, it says, okay, you got a new version, calls the onUpgrade method, and it will delete the old database. And that's basically what happens. And because it doesn't have version 2 of the new database, it'll recreate it, rewrite it to storage. But like I said, you can look all over this on your own. But we are going to change the package name in this string right here. So let's get this package name. Okay, what's going on here? Okay, I see what happened. Whenever I pasted this class in, I pasted it into the Java folder and it went out of the package. So I'm just going to move that into the package. Refactor that throughout the thing. So once I do that, that should go good. Okay, yeah, that's what happened. Anyways, sorry about that. In this string down here, you're going to want to replace the package name. So that way, whenever it writes its internal storage, it's in the right spot. And all we're going to do now is just create an object of the DB helper. And we're going to pass it the context. Once we do that, we're going to get a database from it. Okay. And we're going to get a cursor. Okay. Once we do that, we're going to move to the first line of it. And then, well, we're going to do while cursor dot move to next. Okay. And then what we're going to do is with text view 1, we're going to dot append. Let's see, I think I have this written in another app to kind of save some time. Yeah. It's one of the great things about building up a couple apps is you have some code to copy off of. Okay, and then we're going to hear my dog snoring in the background. Funny. All right, basically what we're doing is we're getting the number of columns And what we're going to do is we've moved to the first line of the cursor. We are going to take the text view and append the column name and skip a line and get the column data all on the same line, and then we're just going to keep doing that while we can move to the next line in the cursor. All right, I'm going to open up another app. I'm going to pause this and get my phone on here and try to start this up. All right, so quickly we'll wrap up this video and we will run this. And basically what should happen is it should just throw all the information from the database onto the screen. And that's what happens. Oh, let me write this in a scroll view real quick. All right. Okay. We'll rerun this real quick. Like I said, I'll upload this project to GitHub, share the link, as well as the site for the SQLite terminal. All right, and that's it. As you can see, we have just gotten all of the information from a MySQL database, dumped it, took that dump, executed the queries after connecting to a SQLite database, brought the SQLite database into Android as an asset. We ship it with the app, and as we create our helper object, what the helper does is it checks to see if it's already been written to internal storage. If not, it writes it to internal storage and then it opens it. But if it has been written, it opens the current one. And if, like I said, you decide to update this database and bring it in here, it's outfitted to just change this 5, and then as the app runs again with a different version, it will call the on upgrade, it'll delete the old one, as well as write the new one. So yep, that's that. I'll share the links, and I hope you find it helpful because I have debugged this for many days. All right, thanks.